the San Francisco 49ers 2025 free agency. Yikes. Let's go. Welcome to the Cayman's Island podcast, where we talk all things San Francisco 49ers. I'm your host, David Cayman. And first and foremost, just want to say sorry, guys. I know I haven't posted a show in a good minute. My youth group and I were away at youth convention. While there, I actually came down with a pretty bad cold or whatnot. And this is the first time I've really had anything that resembles a voice to be able to get on here and give you guys at least some halfway decent audio. So for today's show, we're going to dig into the San Francisco 49ers 2025 free agency and my thoughts on that. I think first, guys, where I want to get started is that if you're a 49er fan, I think it's time we take a good look in the mirror as far as our fanhood and recognize exactly what it is that's going on here with the franchise. And depending upon what your expectations were going into this free agency period is probably going to define how bad or how good you would grade this free agency period. If we're realistic based on the moves that have been made and what was said by John Lynch is that cuts were going to be made, right? This is an off season where costs will be reduced. And the reality is, guys, that over the past several years, this organization has had almost a blank check, willing to spend anything it takes, go after big name free agents, do whatever is necessary to bring home that Lombardi trophy to the organization. And when you look at it, 2023, I mean, we legit had a super team, relatively healthy, things going pretty well across the board. And we still didn't get the job done. So in this whole 49ers having this super team, the Super Bowl window has passed for this super team, right? We're not fielding that product this year. We're not getting into that product this year. We're cutting cost. We're allowing certain free agents to walk out the door. So let's dig into a couple of these transactions and a couple of these moves. But before I do so, kind of just an overall, just honest thoughts. While we were away at convention, I received a lot of calls, voicemails, text, from fans, man, just really disheartened. Like, one of my youth students that's a huge 49ers fan even texted me asking me, like, who are some of these guys that we even got in free agency, right? So let's just look at it. Okay, so folks that went out the door that we lost during the free agency period. All right, so some of our key departures. Of course, we traded Debo. We lost Kyle Juszczyk. Again, Debo and Kyle Juszczyk, man. Again, I really like both players, but if we could just be transparent, this past year in 2024, they didn't add much value at all, especially the way we were trying to run our offense. I really think we probably could have been a little bit more productive putting additional playmakers out there on the field versus a fullback. Now, look, again, I like Juice, man. I like the fact that he blocks pretty decent. He can catch the ball for a fullback. He's that, sneaky weapon out of the backfield or whatnot. But the way we ran our offense this year, nobody was scared to get burnt deep over the top. And when that box is loaded, man, you don't have a lot of opportunities to do some sneaky trick, fullback plays, right? So, and with Debo, for whatever reason, I think he's lost a step. I think the fact that Kyle tries to force feed Debo or really, scheme the whole offense around Debo impacted the team. So I think there's kind of like an addition by subtraction scenario here that the hope is with those two particular players being gone and Kyle not scheming toward those guys, maybe it will open up the offense a bit more. Losing Huff, that stings. I think we all kind of sensed that was going to happen just based on the injury history. Don't get me wrong. When he was healthy full season, all pro, hitting folks like a torpedo, right? But with the whole injury piece and the amount of money he was looking for, I could understand that. With Malik Mustafa, stepping up in there, I could see that move. Dre Greenlaw leaving, man, that breaks my heart. It really does. I think it's kind of interesting that both guys are headed to Denver. Man, don't sleep on Denver. They are, if Bo Nix can take another step and a half in the right direction, that team could get scary really, really quick over there with those additions. But you look at some of the other folks that we've lost, man. Jalen Moore. I like Jalen Moore. I thought he did a really, really nice job when Trent went down. I think those departures, that depth, Aaron Banks, I'm not a huge Aaron Banks fan, but just that depth alone, being gone from an already kind of suspect at times offensive line, I really think that's gonna hurt. And then you look at some of the guys that we brought in here. You got Luke Farrell, tight end, coming from Jacksonville. He was drafted in the 5th round of the 2021 NFL draft. Like 300 receiving yards for his career. And really just primarily a blocking tight end. We signed him to a pretty significant deal financially. Not super excited about that. You got Patrick Taylor Jr., not super excited about that. He is a backup running back. I do like what he did. I like the way he runs, but nothing to be super excited about. Richie Grant, safety, played for the Falcons. A backup piece more than likely. Luke Gifford, I believe he was I believe he started his career with the Cowboys, I think, back in 2019 as an undrafted free agent, but. Yeah, that's a head-scratching move. Maybe just a depth piece there. Re-signed Kevin Givens. We're familiar with him. Some defensive tackle depth. Jason Pinnock, I believe he was drafted also in the 5th round of the 2021 draft by the Jets. And then I think last he played for the Giants. Maybe he'll be maybe a security piece in the event Jair Brown just struggles like he did in the 2024 season. You got Demarcus Robinson, wide receiver. He actually played for the Rams. I think, in my opinion, this is probably the player I'm most excited about. I think he might be a useful weapon in our system, can cause some separation at the wide receiver position. We also got Trey Brown, cornerback. He played for the Seahawks. I think that's a pretty decent depth piece there. Mac Jones as backup quarterback. I mean, I don't hate it. But I don't love it either. It looks like we're really going to depend very, very heavily on what it is we've done in the draft. With the caveat I want to add here is that it's free agency still going on, right? I can only gauge, up until March 13th, 2025 so far. But if I had to give it a grade, if I was giving it a grade based on what I thought we were going to do, I thought that we would try to, based on the players that we lost, try to add more impact, right? So if I'm grading this thing based on what I expected, I got to say D+, C-. If we're grading it on the fact that it was said we were going to cut some costs and some hard decisions were going to get made, based on that, if we're just trying to add depth and not plug these holes, I mean, it kind of is what it is. Maybe a C-, C at best. But None of these moves are anything at all to write home about. Not super excited about any of it. Now, there's still some players out there. There's still some moves that we could possibly make. Really interested to see what it is we're going to do on the BA front. Are we really going to trade? Are we really going to trade BA? And if that's the direction we're headed in, I'm the type of person that if we're going to do something, we should do it big. If this is like a semi-rebuild, or you want to call it maybe a retool, I don't feel it's a retool based on these moves. We have gotten worse and not gotten better as of yet. Again, we could have a killer draft. We're going to need to have a killer draft to be competitive in this division. One could argue that the Rams are better now. One could argue that, what's Seattle going to look like at the end of the day when they're done with their draft, or, finish making their moves, right? So we'll have to see where that goes. And you look at the Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals beat us twice last year. That last game of the season was nasty, just awful, just ugly. While we have a super easy, super weak schedule, so does the entire NFC West. So, right now we look at our season last year, only winning 6 games. I know we had a lot of injuries, but guys, to be honest, I'm not sure a healthy BA and a healthy Christian McCaffrey make up enough games to get this team in the playoffs. On top of all that, on the defensive side of the ball, we could not stop the run whatsoever. We've not made any moves that helps that D-line. And now you have Fred Warner. And look, Fred is a beast. He's an absolute beast. But he's been most productive when he's had help, right? So we've not, in my opinion, made any moves to fix any of those defensive issues. I think we still have a solid secondary. But guys, we've got to get better up front. We really, really do. Perhaps that's the goal, and perhaps that's the goal in the draft. We are going to go straight, full-on D-line, O-line, get tougher in these trenches, which if you took a look at the Super Bowl, that's where that football game was won and lost. It was won in the trenches, on the defensive line, on the offensive line. So, I'm really hoping that's going to be the focus for the team. But if we're going to do this thing, let's do it big. If this is a rebuild, let's do it all the way. Let's rebuild it, right? Let's look at some of our players that can get some immediate draft capital, immediate value back. Losing Leonard Floyd is a big deal. We did not get Joey Bosa like it was rumored that there were some talks. There were some negotiations there where we were going to go after Joey. I wasn't super hyped or excited about making that acquisition whatsoever. I think Joey is past his prime. It's a neat headline that the Bosa brothers are on the same team, but I don't think he's having as many sacks as Leonard Floyd did. So in any event, I really think if this is a rebuild, and I'm just engaging this based on the moves that the Niners made, it looks rebuildish to me. So if that's the case, let's do it all the way. Okay? Let's put Nick Bosa out there. I think you could, to a good team, get a couple of first-round draft picks, especially to a good team. And I know nobody wants to hear this, but if you picked up the phone and you called the Eagles and said, hey, would you like Nick Bosa for, a first-round pick this year and next year? I think they shake your hand because those picks are going to be late anyway. We have to be realistic here. With this team that we're fielding, we're not beating the Eagles. We're not beating the Lions. We're not beating Green Bay. Our roster is devoid of talent right now. And it's going to take some serious draft capital, some serious youth to get back and be what I believe is a championship contender. Now, I know it's all about making it to the playoff dance, right? Anything can happen in the playoffs. There can be an injury. When is there not an upset in the playoffs or a team that, the Commanders this year. Like, I don't think anybody, saw the Commanders making it all the way to the NFC Championship game. But with this roster, the talent that we have, like I said, right now, March 13th, 2025, I don't see this team as a serious playoff contender. I have confidence in Kyle. I have confidence that he can scheme something up. It's kind of funny because when we have a down year, the next year we have a bounce back year. But we've had those bounce back years a lot of times because just of the ridiculous talent that we have that we have on the team in general. A lot of that talent's gone, guys. We're going to have to see what we're doing in the draft. Definitely looking forward to doing a show on the draft, what I would do if I were making the picks, what I would do overall as far as drafting players. For those of you guys that don't know, I'm a big Georgia Bulldogs fan, so I'm a big SEC guy. So I've got my eyes on a few SEC players for that D-line and around that O-line that I think could really be difference makers. Defensive tackle is a very deep position in this upcoming draft. Now, I'm excited about the prospects. Now, with that being said, there's some really good talent out there in other conferences, but I've seen a lot of these guys in the SEC play. So I have I've seen a lot of film on those guys that I want to give some feedback on. So stay tuned to that next show. Appreciate your time, guys. Take care and God bless.